Why are the female characters in video games so sexualized? Western video game characters are ugly, stop ruining women. Interesting discourse, but what is a woman? Jesus Christ, I love women. Women. Fascinating, aren't they? The current debate of Western game women ugly and Eastern game women pretty is one that you may have stumbled upon if your interest is even remotely gaming adjacent. People complaining that Aloy has facial hair and that Mary Jane's look like a potato or some shit like that. This discourse is almost old at this point, and honestly I won't even be touching on it too much because I almost never play Western AAA games. But one thing that is rather hard to ignore is that a non-negligible portion of the games I do play has content that is very provocative, for the lack of a better word. Where in the West you see games retracting from sexualizing their female characters, in the East the opposite has been happening for quite some time, and if anything it's kinda interesting to see this discrepancy. Now I'm gonna level with you. I don't like sexualized content. I know that's rich coming from the guy who's been watching big titty anime girls on Twitch for the past 3 years, but almost every time I see sexualized content in some form of non-sexual media, it's either negligible on the impact it has on the work or actively disruptive. Very few are the occasions where I feel like it adds to the overall content. So few in fact that I can't think of any examples off the top of my head. But that's just me giving you my shitty opinion so that you may harass me in the comments. The truth is that if it's not too blatant, I don't mind it that much. However, over my years living on the cursed dirt wall, I have come to one realization. That being that sex sells. Thank you, I'll be taking my Nobel Prize in psychology now. But really, sexualization is everywhere, both in subtle ways and not, because it is potentially one of the most exploitable characteristics of the human nature, or sexually reproducing creatures as a whole. The goal of biology is to spread the genome forward, so it's not at all surprising that a system like that could be hijacked for the sake of profit. And that business strategy, if you can call it that, is exploitative of everyone. I'm not sure if this happens in other places, but in my country, nightclubs have separate entrance prices depending on your gender. Women pay less to enter, ensuring that the establishment will be decently packed with eligible bachelorettes, which in turn will attract men who will pay more for the entrance. This is the most blatant example I can think of. Women are being exploited for their values as objects of attraction, while men are being financially exploited. This pattern is fucked and it's everywhere. Ever notice how gacha games often have a roster that consists of mostly females? Why is that? To quote one of the best tweets I've read this week, because the gentlemen like big titty bitches, next article, write some real fucking news. Honestly, true. Based, even. And like I said in the beginning, if the sexualization doesn't get in the way of the story/theme/game/activity, I don't mind it that much. If it's moderate, I'll even welcome it. It's one of the reasons why Arknights is one of my favorite gachas. The roster is mostly female, but the character design focuses a lot more on visual storytelling and aesthetics rather than blatant sexualization. Even the swimwear skins have bigger emphasis on aesthetics and characterization rather than actual sexualization. Let's compare this, for example, with Azure Lane. Here's a swimsuit skin in Arknights, here's one in Azure Lane. Here's a Racing Queen skin in Arknights, here's one in Azure Lane. Here's a maid skin in Arknights, here's one in Azure Lane. I'm not here to shit on the ship game, by no means. I don't even have the authority to criticize it since I've never played it, nor do I know anything about the story. I'm merely using it as an example of how blatant sexualized content can be. Undeniably, there is sexualization on Arknights. A pretty good example was Bagpipe's Racing Queen outfit. Wait, what the fuck is this?
You didn't get a proper supper in yesterday, did you? No, I didn't want to hear about work.
There's the top thigh-high combo plus the transparent miniskirt that literally spells out penetration, but considering the pose, the composition, and even the focal point, this was very clearly designed with aesthetics first and a focus on sexualization that is present, but only subtle. Whereas in Shinano's Racing Queen outfit, the only thing that I can focus on is on the whole ass fucking bakery that she's packing. It's dead center and probably the first thing your eyes will be drawn to. This one was evidently made with sexualization in mind first. Don't get me wrong, the skin is very pretty, but the primary intent is crystal clear. Azure Lane doesn't really try to hide its sexualization, but there is one game that makes it its main selling point. Nikke Godess of Victory is, without any contest, the most sexualized non-hentai game I have ever seen in my life. This shit is so intense that after playing it you will go from jacking off to jacking on. Nikke is a South Korean third-person shooter action role-playing video game where every single character has carefully designed light 2D models that jiggle every time they're shooting their guns. The sexualization is so blatant that there are 2 characters that have bunny suits as their default skin. Is there a lore reason why Blanc is wearing 6-inch heels in an active warzone? Is she stupid? Or is she so skilled in Modern Warfare that she just uses them as a flex? I don't know, and once again, I'm not here to throw shit at anyone who plays it. As a matter of fact, a while back I downloaded it out of curiosity. It was curiosity, I swear. I wasn't going in with high expectations. If anything, they were quite low. And I gotta tell you, I was very pleasantly surprised. The beginning mission goes surprisingly hard, and it had me actually invested in the characters and the worlds presented much faster than other games did. You could point out a couple of flaws in Nikke, but a weak opening is definitely not one of them. Though I stopped playing in the beginning of the story at around chapter 3, the narrative was good, decently packed with some clever moments and an intriguing story, and with a mostly serious tone. Mostly. There are a couple of things in the game that tip me off, namely a couple of fan service moments that just fucks up the tension and pacing a little bit. And other things that are just funny.
The last thing they're thinking of when they see us is sex. Trust me.
Story-wise, my complaints are mostly superficial and pertaining to comedy bits that break the tension in moments where I would otherwise prefer a more serious tone. But I understand that this is a matter of opinion. To expect something that looks like this to be 100% serious all the time is a fault with me, not the game. Long story short, I was having fun. Up until that point, I thought that maybe, as wild as that assumption may be, sexualization was actually a secondary goal of Nikke, and that underneath all the double D cups and voluptuous derrieres, there were actually deep characters with profound stories. And then I engaged in the additional content. Basically, every now and then you can talk to your Nikkes to increase the level of affection you have with them, and that takes place in short scenes where they reveal a bit of their character. Based off of their personality, you're supposed to make a certain dialogue choice. I have 2 SSR units. Actually, I don't because I lost my account and now I'm playing with a new one to record this video. I got this one though, is she good? The ones I used to have are the following. This is Rupee. Her personality is entirely summarized by the fact that she likes shopping. That's it. When you're talking to her, if you choose a dialogue option that alludes to shopping, she gets happy. That's it. This is Solene. Her personality is based off the fact that she wants to be seen as an adult but acts childish. That's it. When you're talking to her, if you choose a dialogue option that makes her feel like an adult or that respectfully appeals to her childish side, she gets happy. That's it. I don't know nor think that all the characters are like this, but the ones I've interacted with don't really look like they have a lot going on under their surface. I do believe that the main ones, namely Rapi and Anise, seem like they have a more complex personalities, but even that is often overshadowed by their complex personalities. With interactions like these specifically, I really felt like maybe these characters were really just designed as horny wallet bait first and as characters second. But the world building was so intricate and the story was so strongly designed that I was willing to turn a blind eye to it. So what I did for this video is that I picked 5 Nikkes that the design appealed to me the most, and I watched a couple of their advising sessions. And to my disappointment, my initial feeling was right. The interactions are mostly surface level, and whichever dialogue option aggrandizes their one main personality trait is often the correct one. Leona likes animals, Helm is a diligent commander, Modernia likes DMC, Santi is a quirky engineer girl, and Big Hat Logan likes to drink and speak like a Dark Souls character. To be fair, some of them did seem like they were a bit more complex than what they initially appeared, and I couldn't exactly define them by one character trait exclusively. But there was ever a moment in the advising sessions where I thought, man, this character looks like they have a lot going on under the surface. And listen, this could very well be a product of me only looking at the advising sessions. The only story I actually checked out was Leona's, and it was about animals, surprisingly. The advising sessions are treated as a more slice-of-life section of the game, and as such don't really have the intention of showing complex interactions. But I really don't think that that's an excuse for shallow characterization. Maybe the true character development only happens in the main story, but I really failed to see how a character like Rupee would have a complex character arc. And here's the thing. If you play Nikke and you're in the process of writing a comment telling me to go fuck myself, please hear me out. Firstly, I'm not saying that your game is bad or that your waifu is trash, they both slap ass, but secondly, I absolutely refuse to believe that the apparent shallowness is because the writers are bad. The stretch of the story I've played so far is evidence that they know what they're doing. Same goes for the very limited experience I have with the events. The world building is rich and there's undeniably a lot of passion poured into it. I believe that the apparent superficiality of the characters is a symptom rather than the whole disease. The Nikkes are made with sexual appeal as their primary objective. Profundity only ever felt secondary. Simply look at how intricate the art is versus the critical interaction of apples versus grapes. Does Nikke sell its characters well? Absolutely, these are some of the prettiest designs I have ever seen, and sometimes that's all you need. Fuck, I know that's all I need, and I'm just saying these things to be pedantic. The women in Nikke are undeniably powerful and undeniably competent, and when I describe it like that, it almost makes them seem empowered at first glance. But the moment I would stop looking into their assets and actually try looking into their eyes, very rarely would I see anything behind them. I genuinely thought that I was missing something. There was no way that in a game with this much passion there was also this much shallowness to what was arguably its core component. Then I tried a different approach. I literally googled, are the Nikke characters shallow? No satisfying results. Are the Nikke characters superficial? Nothing again. Maybe I was the only one who held this belief. Am I stupid? Nikke character development. That's when I found something. Let's take a look at those top 3 characters. One of them was Modernia, which was one of the ones I selected earlier, but to be fair I didn't check her Bond story. The only logical thing I could possibly do was to check out the story of those 3 and define once and for all whether they were actually complex or if they're just pretty Live 2D files. And to my surprise, I was wrong. They are actually complex. We're off to a very strong start with Dorothy. That skin is not only pretty, it's interesting, and it shows character, the presence of trauma and a need to maintain composure. My favorite character in fiction has that, and Dorothy has it too. But that was just the skin, I actually had to check out the story. And God forbid, is this depth? Subtext? On my booty shooter? I watched a very good fandom of Dorothy's story on YouTube and manually read both Red Hood and Modernia stories, and I came out genuinely impressed. They do an excellent job of not only characterizing the Nikkes, but they also do world building and shit. These characters actually have developed, thought out backstories and complex feelings for one another. Throughout the story, we even see them grow fonder of the player character in a natural way. What the fuck? I actually ate my words, this game is fucking Kino. Don't get me wrong, I wouldn't want to be caught dead playing it, but there's something of value here. Granted, it's not perfect all of the time, but a good portion of it is very good. Even so, that does not answer the question of whether or not the way the characters are presented is somehow demoralizing. Does this being a very sexually charged game somehow denigrate the themes, story and characters it's trying to present? We will get to that shortly. I cannot possibly neglect to mention another game given the topic we're at. In fact, it was this game that gave me the idea to make this video in the first place. Have you ever heard of Stellar Blade? Now you have. Souls-like elements with acrobatic combat. Sign me the fuck up. This is the main character, her name is Eve. Come on, don't be shy, say hi to her. The game is probably coming out in the week I post this video, so we don't really know a lot about the lore yet. Editing Hado here, it already came out and I'm downloading it right now. So everything that I say here is before the release of the game. I'm only taking into consideration the trailers and the gameplay demo that we have. But not unlike Nikke, its fighting forces comprise mostly, if not entirely, of female characters. Once again, we've seen the same thing, a hot lady in a skin-tight suit, and once again you will hear me being a pedantic ass about how impractical heals are in a combat scenario. But neither are backflips or hollow swords, and yet they look fucking delectable. Eve was evidently made to look hot, absolutely no contest there, and the outfits hardly offer any tactical advantage. On the contrary, a significant portion of the player base will find it harder to play since one of the hands will be occupied. But during the demo and all the trailers I've seen, I have yet to see Eve be treated with any form of disrespect, in-game at least. The story may not be remarkable, but given the tone I don't think fanservice will get in the way of it, hopefully. And most importantly, given what it's shaping up to be, Eve seems like she's going to be a character who happens to be a hot girl and not the other way around. You hear the term strong female character thrown around a lot, and it's really funny to see the examples some people give. Some people focus on the strong female part of the strong female character, and they end up making a snarky asshole who's good at everything except for running above 10 frames a second. Other people yet focus on the female character and forget to give them the respect or agency they should have on the story. A strong female character is a female character who can show agency not despite her femininity and not even necessarily because of it, but independent of it. Same goes for sexuality. I think that sexualization is not disruptive if the character portraying it has sufficient depth. It is a cool character who happens to be hot and not the other way around. The concept of empowerment can be hard to define. The girls in Nikke are undeniably powerful. As a matter of fact, they are probably the most powerful things in their respective fictional universe. And very interestingly, there are lore reasons why they are all women, as well as reasons why they dress the way they do. The world is in fact so rich that I am unironically considering on making a video exploring its themes and implications. The Watsonian reasons, meaning the in-universe reasons for the intricacies of Nikke's world, are satisfying enough that it intrigued me, but the Doylist reasons, as in the real-life reasons, are undeniable. Same goes for Stellar Blade. The question to ask is, are the characters sufficiently competent and respected enough by the story to the point where their feats and action are more denoting of their character rather than their physical appearance? I don't think there's an objective answer to this, it varies from person to person. But we can test that right now. Spoilers for Dorothy's story and the beginning of Nikke. When I say Dorothy, what do you remember? Do you remember a traumatized Nikke struggling with loneliness and a lingering hatred for humanity due to her unappreciated sacrifices? Or do you remember that thigh jiggle? When I say Marion, do you remember the kind Nikke who stayed by your side even as she was being executed? Or do you remember the caliber of those calcium cannons? Whatever your answer was, I'm sure it will also depend on the character in question. In terms of empowerment, the game succeeds in some places and fails in others. Which ones they are will depend on how lenient you are with the competence to sexualization ratio. As for Stellar Blade, only time will tell. One more thing that I feel would be interesting to look over. What about the sexualization of men? Is there even such a thing? Once again, because fuck me actually making one conclusive statement about anything in one of my videos, it depends on your point of view. If you ask for someone to show you a full body picture of a hot woman, they will probably show someone revealing a non-negligible amount of skin. Maybe shorts, some cleavage, a crop top, the works. But if you ask for someone to show you full body pictures of hot men, sure, there will be some shirtless guys here and there, but you will also see some men who are fully dressed, maybe a uniform, a suit, something like that. And this is an interesting phenomenon to see, right? I have a couple of theories that might explain that, none of which I think are actually correct, but putting them out there to see how they withstand criticism is probably a good way to get closer to the truth. In essence, it could be because the sexualization of men is still a very new phenomenon, since only very recently in human history has it become comparatively accepted that cis women and the LGBTQ+ community may want to see a bit of man ass. It could also be because the traits that make a man hot are different from the ones that make a woman hot. Once again, I may not be the best person to analyze this since I am mostly straight. That being said, there's a specific type of guy that can refer to me as John F. Kennedy, as I will be at the back of the car giving them messy head. Let's take a look at some of the designs from Genshin, Arknights, and Punishing Grey Raven, since those are the gachas I've played that have a decently good roster of male characters. Here is the man from Genshin. You know what gets hard when I look at him? My time pronouncing his name. This character is hot, even though he's only showing like 20% of his skin. Is it the suit, the sharpness, the forearms? Saying that this character has a sexualized design is delusional, but like, he is hot. Undeniably, designed to be attractive. He's a warden in-game, and for reference, this is what a warden looks like in real life. Here's another example from Genshin. I'll hate them, with exposed shoulders like some sort of fucking slut. Once again, bro has like 15% of his skin showing at most, and yet he's got the entire community drooling. I cannot fail to neglect the fact that his, tank top is tight enough that you can see the muscles beneath. Sexualized? I don't know, maybe a little bit, but here's a normal college kid for reference. Here is Phantom from Arknights. The only thing that is uncovered is his face, yet I feel like one more inch of skin revealed would make the design less attractive for whatever reason. Like, if you take away the gloves, the design just wouldn't hit the same. What the fuck is going on here? Like some sort of inverse phenomena where the less skin a man shows, the more attractive he appears. Finally, here's Watanabe Epitaph from Punishing Grey Raven. Not even the skin of his neck is showing. Have I made my point yet? It's very hard to say that any of the characters I've presented are sexualized in any way, but the design just works. It could be a matter of pose, but it's probably more of a presentation thing. Every single one of them looks serious, competent, physically strong, or even all at the same time. They all have a bit of a vibe where you can look at them and say, yeah, that's a man alright. Is it about appearing traditionally masculine? Let me use this as an excuse to look at the twinks. Here's Wanderer from Genshin and here's Lumen from Arknights. Neither of them are traditionally masculine in the way you'd expect. Skara here is a temperamental brat, not to mention a short king, and Lumen is a very soft-spoken guy with a very gentle vibe overall. Are they hot? Maybe not traditionally, but Skara has a pretty substantial following, and Lumen, I mean, he's there. What's interesting to see is that this discourse is almost never directed to men because the traits that make a man look attractive often don't have a big intersect with traditionally sexual characteristics. You see the girls in Nikke with very revealing clothes and you think they're hot. You can also see Chief Deputy Anderson in Nikke fully dressed in military attire and also think he's hot. Go figure. I thought that the pattern was something like the graph that I had made with very verifiable sources that I didn't pull out of my ass. Does it have something to do with the clothes? Here's where I can bring up the girls from Helltaker, a game that is literally about making a harem, and every single one of the girls is not only dressed, most of them are wearing suits or some variant of that. And there's Judgment. Are they sexualized? Not that much, but if the clothes are supposed to be the deterrent, then explain this. Once again, it's a matter of presentation. I don't think sexualization is intrinsically bad. It's there for a reason, and it sells, and it's pretty and pleasant to look at. It only becomes a problem when it gets in the way of telling a story. When it fucks up the pacing for the sake of unnecessary pieces of fan service. Why have it there at all? Well, to quote the gentleman from the tweet earlier, because bros like big titty bitches, next video make some real fucking content.